Okay, for a change, let's start warming up the body from the bottom up. So see how your balance is this morning. Weight into your left foot, I'm mirroring you, and let's circle that right ankle. So you can always hold on to a wall, or every now and then tap down, but let's just see if we can get a nice little movement into the ankle and the other direction. So right away, we'll be starting to think about pulling in your core and all those stabilizing muscles to help us stay upright, and there'll be more on that later. Let's switch to the other leg. So plant the roots of that standing leg. Let's lift and circle the ankle. A little bit of wobbling spine anyway. It's kind of early in the morning to be balancing on one leg. And let's get those circles in the other direction. So the brain just will maybe need to tune into the muscles needed to keep you upright. All right, we'll move on to the knees. So the feet kind of hip distance apart. Hold on to knees, bend at the hips, and let's just circle so the knees come forwards, out to the sides and back. Now the feet stay planted onto the floor because what we're stretching the stabilizers in the ankle and the knees. So feet flat to the floor. No, nothing aggressive or wild about this movement. It requires a limited movement, that circling action. But then we'll take it a little bit deeper, so we start to stretch the backs of the legs. So as you bend the knees forwards, open, and we fold as we stretch the legs. Let's do that again. Bending, open, then stretching the legs, getting that nice stretch down the backs of the legs. The last time like that, then we'll change the direction. So knees out wide, knees come together, and straightening up here, we're folding before going into another round. So we're circling out, forwards and back, out, forwards and back. And then let's roll up through the spine, moving on to the hips, legs nice and wide. And we'll start by hula looping the hips. So we'll take the hips all the way to one side. See my legs stay straight here, so we're just focusing on the muscles at the top of the leg. And we're just drawing a nice big circle with the pelvis all the way around. And because we'll have tightness in different areas, maybe the inner thigh here is tight for you. Hip flexors, you do a lot of work sitting down. Obviously, you need to be a bit more patient about releasing the fronts of the hips. Let's take this full circle and then change the direction of those circles. Good. Last one in this direction. And then we'll move on to the back and shoulders. So legs closer together again. Let's swoop the arms forwards with bent knees and reach all the way up. Nice big stretch, spread the palms. And as we come forwards, clasp the hands, re-straighten the legs, bow the head and lift the arms up to the ceiling. So no collapsing into the shoulders here, keep lifting the hands up to the ceiling. Release the hands, bend the knees, sweep the arms forwards, giving yourself a big hug, yawn overhead, reaching into the elbows and then releasing the arms, elbows come into the waist. We're just going to do that once more, folding down with the hands interlaced, coming overhead with the hands, a nice stretch into the shoulders. And then straighten the legs, hamstring stretch. Let's bend the knees and sweep the arms all the way forwards, up and again. Elbows up to the ceiling. Big stretch, side to side, and then we release the arms, the hands, these cactus arms, and then shoulders back and down. All right, let's now remember we have a pelvic floor, so we'll now get our awareness into the pelvis. So if we have our fingers and the webbing of the index thumbs around the waist here, if we tip forwards as if the pelvis is of all the water, the water would flow forwards. Tilt the pelvis back, water's flowing out the back. So let's just have a pelvic tilt forwards and backwards. And then let's have somewhere in between, so neutral spine, where we feel like we're zipping this lower area of the abdomen up towards the ribs. Pelvic floor, we think about the openings in your bottom, think about closing back, zipping all the way to the front, right to your tummy button, then pulling that corset in around the waist. Your pelvic floor, think about it as being like a hammock at the bottom here under the pelvis, squeezing it in and pulling up. And we're going to hold that contraction for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, release it. Again, in, zipping from back, closing, 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 all the way up to the navel, zipping in. Now the pelvic floor, squeeze together, shrink it and lift up. Like you're trying to lift all your internal organs up high behind the ribs. Squeeze, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release last time, zipping from back to front, navel to spine, corset in. Now pelvic floor, squeeze together and lift. Energetically lift up. This is the last time. Squeeze high for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. So if that was maybe 80% effort in the pelvic floor, we'll go to more like 50%. Let's see if we can lift the heels up. So feel that light engagement, zipping up back to front, little pelvic tilt backwards to a neutral spine. Pelvic floor lifts and let's rise up onto the balls of the feet. So it's had all the benefits of a plank, plus we're testing our balance and keep the pelvic floor lifting and then lower the heels. We'll do that once more, zipping up from back to front, corset pulled in, pelvic floor lifts, and we rise up. So you're firming up the thighs, the glutes, almost as a magnet on the top of your head, lifting you up to the ceiling. Keep that corset pulled in and the pelvic floor lifted, and then slowly lower down through the heels. Keeping with that idea of your kind of Pilates core, we'll take a fold into the upper body. So feeling the zip in, and we hinge from the hips. See if you can keep that pull in, front ribs together, navel to spine. Keep it squeeze. Keeping the squeeze, the pull up in the pelvic floor, and then press back up to standing. We've got that twice more. See if you can have some awareness into your chin, keeping the neck nice and long. Zip up, we're coming into the fold, but this is the same distance between the chin and the chest. So we don't stick the chin forwards and end up with that ruffle at the back of the neck, and we don't give in to the weight of the head. Pressing back up to standing. Another one here. Maybe this time awareness into the shoulders. Keep the shoulders open wide, but the ribs together. So much to think about. So zipping in all the way up to the ribs without collapsing the shoulders. Keep that squeeze in the pelvic floor as we lower down. And then coming back up to standing. So using all the muscles of your body. Same idea, but into a chair squat. Weight has to be in the heels to protect the knees. So let's find that zip all the way up to those front ribs, sitting back into the heels, as though you're about to sit into a low chair. Start to bend at the knees. We find that zigzag line. The pull in the front ribs, navel to spine, pelvic floor, and maybe we lift the arms so the hands are in line with the shoulders. So you're sitting in a low chair, take it low, keep the zip in, and we'll come up to standing. So we'll do that again, and we're going to add on a twist. So when you're ready, feel the zip in, relax the shoulders down. So wide across the collarbone, but here everything is zipped in. Let's take the weight into the heels. Pelvic floor lifts. We have that stability all around the torso with a lovely open line across the chest. From here, mirror me, right hand onto the left shoulder, and we take a twist and we open, but keep your front knees forwards, as if you've got back knees, but you know what I mean. Your knees tracking forwards. Feel that twist, keep leaning, twisting your head, chin, shoulders, ribs, all the way around to the side, and then coming center. Over to the other side, re-zip your weights into the heels, and then you might have a bit of burning in the thighs. Opposite hands and shoulders, help roll it back, and then take that twist. So looking over your shoulder, pausing long enough to get that extra little bit of a twist, making sure that your right knee doesn't follow that twist. The right knee is still pointing forwards and coming forwards, and we stand up just to shake out the legs, and then we do that again. Stick with me. Okay, so hip distance apart. Let's zip up, navel to spine, wide across the collarbone, and sitting back into that low chair. Once we have that stable position, let's extend the arms. So this time let's go to the right first. So with your left hand, you see this external rotation. So if we're working at the desk, we're so rounded for much of the time, we want to find a counter here. So using that left hand, roll the shoulder back to initiate this movement, twisting the spine as we turn, swivel. So twist from the spine goes right up into the neck. That right knee still charging forwards. Feel that work across the body to hold, contain. Twist a little bit further and then come center. Last time over to the other side. Hold, roll the shoulder back and down. So we've got a nice gap between the ears and the shoulders. When you're ready, feeling that zip, pelvic floor, very easy to forget it's there. So if you can draw it up, take that twist even into your eyeballs, wherever your eyes look, the body eventually will follow. Keeping the knees forwards, feeling as though you're bringing out the waist. And then come center, stand up. Let's just roll out the shoulders, hold the shoulders, elbows together, up, back and down. Once more. So we'll take a pyramid stance with the legs, and again we'll be having more awareness of the pelvis. So let's mirror me, your right foot steps forwards and your left foot stepping forwards as well. So got pyramid straight legs with the toes pointing in the same direction. If that's tricky for your balance, you can maybe take your legs a little bit wider, maybe turn out those toes at the back. What we're aiming for is kind of train track lines that we'll follow with the feet. Hands back on the hips. Now, if there's a bowl of water, tip the water forwards. See how you stick your bottom out, you're going to feel some tension in the lower back. And then the reverse, use your fingers on the crests of the hips to tilt and pour water out the back. We're holding that position. You should feel you're firing up the thigh of this back leg, and by tucking the bottom under, we're getting a hip flexor stretch here. Maintain that and a long line in the spine, and then start to bend this right knee. So we're lunging without the body following. So we're working into the hip flexors. Again, for long periods of time sitting, or if you're a runner, you do lots of walking, really important to give a nice gentle stretch to the hip flexors. So here we can call this position 1. And then position 2, we'll straighten the leg, tipping the pelvis forwards, we come into a flat back fold. So, nice and gentle pace, tilt of the pelvis, bottom tucked, bend the knee, so we're in the lunge. We feel that nice hip flexor stretch. Maybe if your toes are pointing forward, you're getting a nice stretch into the calf muscle. Then we're straighten up, flat back fold. Don't worry if you're not at the same pace as me, we'll do maybe 2 more, but we're going in stages so that you kind of have that awareness of where your pelvis is, so that as we get that posterior tilt of the pelvis, we get some relief into the hip flexors. So you almost push your bottom down as you come into this lunge, enjoy the stretch before straightening up both legs and coming into a fold. Last one on this side. Tilt the pelvis, lunge, and then straightening up and folding. We've got one more thing on this side before we switch legs. Let's come back to that lunge position. So bottom tucked, hip flexor stretching here, bend the front knee, and then interlace the fingers with the index fingers up to the ceiling. A little bit of a balance here, but we're stretching, think of it more of the stretching, lengthening up through the spine, and taking a circling movement. And it can be really small because this can really challenge your balance. But I want you to think about those index fingers reaching up to the ceiling, so almost like telescoping the ribs, the spine, getting some extra length along the spine. So really reaching up like a lovely big morning stretch through the body. And then we'll circle in the other direction. And then we'll take that little sequence onto the other side. So where we've been pulling in those core muscles, we can get a nice stretch in the abdomen area here. We'll float the arms down, release and switch legs. If you need to shake out the legs before you do, that's fine. So this time, left foot forwards. And remember, as far as possible, toes pointing forwards. And you see how I've still got my knees, ankles in line with my hips. So it's kind of nice Pilates alignment there. Hands on the hips. Let's again find that bottom tuck, pelvic tilt, water pouring out of the bowl of the pelvis, and then bending the front knee. If you use an angle, might be a little bit clearer. So the bottom's tucking, the knee bends, and staying upright in the upper body. So bottom pressing down, tailbone pointing down towards the floor. Wide across the collarbone, and then position 2, we're straighten the legs, pelvis tips forwards, and the upper body follows. Let's toggle between those two. Pelvic tilt lunge. Straightening up and folding. So those initial exercises where I was trying to get you to be aware of keeping the front of the body right up to the ribs zipped up, yet being wide across the collarbone and keeping the head nicely stacked. The same principles, the same watch points apply as we come into this flat back fold here. So keeping the chin back, head back in line with the ribs, everything zipped in, but without letting the shoulders collapse. Because obviously, as we come into this fold, gravity will want to draw the shoulders down, the head down. We have all that stability for the scapula and awareness into the pelvis, so we can keep the strength all the way up that chain. Let's make this our last one, and then we'll go into those spirals. Amazing. So if we come on up, let's come back to that lunge position. So a posterior tilt of the pelvis, a bend into the front knee. See if you can get the other thumb on top, the one that feels a bit strange. Let's take a big stretch up to the ceiling. Bottom stays tucked, so we're still getting a nice stretch in the hip flexors, but we're just thinking about lengthening, finding spaces along between each vertebra of the spine. Those fingertips reaching up to the ceiling, and just giving a nice stretch. The abdomen, the sides of the waist. And then let's take those circles in the other direction. Wonderful. So we'll step the legs together when we've released the arms and just give the legs a little bit of a shake out. Well, one more thing, when we're in from a standing position, let's take the legs out wide, hands on the insides of the knees, and let's just bend at the knees like a sumo squat, except we're more balletic and upright in the upper body, so keeping that long line in the spine. Let's straighten and then bend. I'm gently pushing the knees out for an inner thigh stretch. Again, maybe coming a little bit lower, just feeling your way into that lunge. Wide lunge. Great. Let's stay here. So into a side bend, lateral flexion of the spine. So let's reach up and overhead. Pausing to really stretch into the fingertips and enjoy that stretch. Then we switch. Reaching over. Lengthening and release. Again. So tailbone pointing down to the floor. Some engagement in the core, loading onto those thighs. Try and squeeze your glutes. Get a little bit of tone into the waist. Last set each side. And then we're going to come down to the mat. So while you finish this last side and you take the feet together, shake out the legs, let me lower the camera, and we're going to take one roll down. So we'll meet on all fours. Great. Jump. Here we go. All right, so hopefully you found your way down to the mat. All fours, shoulders over the wrists. A little bit of a gap between the knees and ankles, and let's go straight into a cat-cow. So flowing into 10 fingers. As you breathe in, look up and stick your bottom out. So exaggerating that curve in the spine. And then the reverse, chin to chest as you breathe out fully. Exhale, fully empty the lungs. Stretch the shoulder blades apart. And another round. Breathing in, here the heels of the hands pressing down and towards your knees, chest open wide. And the reverse. We're going to take a move with the hips. It's as though the hips are We're going to draw a shape of a smile. So sing the hips over to one side, send them back towards your heels and over to the other side. So leaning into that hip, drawing that big smile, side to side. Lovely. Do that once more. When we come into a knee lunge, you might want to pad up the knees or roll your mat over. But let's all step the right foot forwards and we're in this knee lunge position. Same thing as before, we just tuck the bottom under first of all, and we'll just take that lunge a little bit lower. So there's a bit more work into your hip flexors now. Opposite hand on the floor, we're holding the knee and giving the hip a circle. So hold the knee. Here the foot is lifting. Let me just back so you can actually see what I'm talking about. So the foot is nice and soft. We're almost tracing the outline of the foot to work into that hip. Nice, big, slow circles. You may feel at a certain point that's kind of interesting, or there's something a little bit tight there. I need to slow down and work through there. And then let's take it in the other direction. Noticing both hips benefiting from this movement. One more thing from this position before we take it to the other side. So same hand on the floor, right hand holding the right shoulder. That same action is peeling back. You see as I do that, then the bicep points up to the ceiling and I'm opening across the chest. So let's feel that movement. So take the elbow forwards, up, peeling the shoulder back and down, and then as though the shoulder blades are slotting into pockets in the back of the body. Again, rounding up and back, guiding the shoulder into that more open position. Also getting that rotation in the spine. One more here, and then we'll take that knee lunge to the other side for knee circles. All right, hands to the floor. Lightly step the other foot forwards. Big lunge, so tailbones to the floor. Hips kind of almost pushing forwards and down. Feel where's a comfortable level of stretch for the hip. Right hand to the floor, and let's guide that left knee into a circling movement. So it's a nice, easy mobilization of the ankle, knee, hip. And it's always very comforting for the knee to actually hold the knee. We could do this independently, but it just feels a little bit nicer and more secure for the knee if we hold. And then let's take those circles in the other direction. And then working with the shoulder. So the support arm, the shoulders directly over the wrist, no leaning back, forwards, trying to stack and have the support up the whole arm. Let's hold this shoulder, peel it back as we open, so this is an open twist as we look back, guiding that elbow and the whole armpit opening into that nice big movement. Now we can breathe in as we lift. Breathe out, shoulders back and down. Always thinking about how much of a gap we can get between the ears and the shoulders, so keeping the neck nice and long. You're ready for a child pose. All right, hands to the floor. Let's step that foot back, big toes together, knees out wide, and take a wide knee child pose. And just give yourself a moment here. You should be getting a nice inner thigh stretch here. Your knees are nice and wide. Just take one more breath there. All right, we're ready. Start to place the hands back. We're coming onto our backs. We'll take leg slides. I realise it's quite a Pilates focus for today's class. We'll do lots of yoga on Tuesday. So let's first of all come back to that neutral spine position. So we should be able to place maybe a pencil under the lower spine. It's not fully imprinted, not really completely flat. Can you find that zipping up from the back, right up to the ribs, the front ribs come together without the shoulders lifting? We'll place the weight into the left foot to leg slides. The right foot is just hovering over the floor. And we start to glide, hover the right leg into that extended position. And then we'll return back to the start. We're alternating legs, and the checkpoints here are keeping the spinal curves exactly the same. So as we destabilize the body by lifting and extending one leg, naturally that hip will want to collapse. So we're working those stabilizers to keep the spine perfectly still and safe. Now, if this is a struggle for you to keep the same curve in the lower spine, you stick with this. If you'd like something a little bit more intense, we'll come to a tabletop position. And from here, we'll glide one leg into that straight line and then return to tabletop. So here, much more of a load on the core muscles to keep the spine in that nice long line, but with the gentle, natural curve that we need and should have in the lower back. It's neither fully imprinted flat to the floor, definitely not arching. So it should be reassuring for you to hear that my voice is shaking here. The effort of keeping my ribs together, navel to spine, without collapsing the shoulders. If this is all going well, you can think about lengthening the back of the neck. No creases at the back of the neck. Anyone, if this is very easy, we take the arms overhead as we extend. So further challenging our stabilizers at the front of the body to keep the ribs together, to keep the navel to spine. Think about if you're wearing a corset. As you extend, you want to almost pull those corset strings in tighter. So above all, if you are arching the spine, take it in, hug the knees into the chest and reset. Your stamina and ability to maintain the same line in the spine will quickly develop. It's better to go for a real quality of movement rather than rush into something that your spinal muscles are not ready for. So I'm definitely feeling my core muscles switching on you. Let's finish that set. Hug the knees into the chest. Tightly, have a nice rock. Cuddle on the spine, and then we'll rock up to sitting. Hold behind the knees. If your spine's comfortable with this kind of massage of the spine, take this roll a couple of times and we'll meet sitting upright. Let's cross the legs. So, sitting up really nice and tall. Let's stretch out the arms. So first of all, with your left arm, walk the fingers down the back, and then let's guide the elbow up to the ceiling. Nice stretch for the triceps, and using your fingers to walk a little bit further down the spine. Same arm across the body, but support from underneath and lightly pull the arm out of the socket, yet lean back. It's almost like you're pulling, creating space in the shoulder joint, but shoulders down. Stretching into the fingertips, because if we have a floppy hand, we will stretch the muscles, but by stretching into the fingertips, we're getting into the other soft tissues, the fascia. Just think about the body stocking of fascia under your skin. If we stretch right to the fingertips, we're doubling, trebling the benefits. Lovely. Tricep stretch on the other side. Ready? Right arm up, drop the fingers down, walking down the back, and then deepen the stretch by lifting the elbows up. Shoulders still down. Use your head to almost lean back and deepen that stretch. And breathe, knowing your hard work's done now. And then the same arm across the body. So keep that shoulder nicely down. Hold and gently pull till you get a nice kind of discomfort stretch into the shoulder. Again, stretching into the fingertips, shoulders down, and lean the head in the opposite direction. And breathe. And then gently release. Let's roll the shoulders. Really feel the shoulder blades coming together here and then slotting into those back pockets, hand gently drawing the shoulders down away from the ears last time. And then a big movement with the arms overhead, big stretch. Drop the head to the right, float the left fingers down, this kind of two-way stretch. Back to the ceiling with both arms. Last thing, over to the other side, drop the head to neck release. Again, stretching into the fingertips, arms stretching in opposite directions. Again, supporting the head back up. And that's it. Half an hour. Ready for the rest of your day.